Hey film fans, welcome to CinePro, your ultimate hub for all movie recaps. From heartwarming classics to the latest blockbusters. Welcome. Our film talks about a future world divided into two sides, with the wealthy in one place and the poor in another. Any poor child reaching the age of 20 has only one chance to live among the wealthy. They undergo a specific test called the process, and only 3% of the participants are chosen and taken away, never to return. In the 104th year of this system, Michelle hears a voice from her headphones and learns that the test is near and she can register. A large number of the poor go to register together, and Michelle and her friend Bruna join them, deciding to try their luck. They all reach the highest point on the hill and enter the facility for the test. They are cleaned thoroughly and given new, clean clothes. Ezekiel appears and begins explaining all the details of the process, saying they will choose a very limited number and the rest will return to the poor area. He praises the ideal system they live in and tells them there are people opposed to the system who want to destroy it, asking them to adhere to the rules and follow them well. He says a few words and asks them to repeat after him, then sends each one to their designated room. At that moment, she meets Alan and is surprised because it's the first time she sees him. She explains that she is there for routine procedures. He approaches her and insists on verifying her identity himself. Afterwards, he talks with Nair, the council manager, who emphasizes focusing very well this time because the process this year is very important to him. She tells him that for the first time in 100 years, someone was killed in the wealthy area, blaming him because he chooses the 3% each year alone. She asks him to focus while choosing because the one who committed the crime might be one of the poor he chose in the past. She explains that the rest of the council members want to replace him with someone else. After finishing his conversation with her, he gets very angry and tries to comprehend the disaster he might face if he gets rejected from his job. The participants start their tests. They are asked many things to determine each one's intelligence level. They also try to learn everything about their personal lives and the experiences they have had over the past 20 years. Of course, it is important for them that the person they choose takes care of themselves and their personal hygiene. A girl among the participants starts to get nervous and can't say a complete sentence due to anxiety. She is removed from the test in seconds and loses, of course. A young man speaks with full confidence and answers all their questions. Denise pressures him to reveal everything inside him and understand his true nature until his nervous personality appears, and he is also expelled from the test. Then it's Michelle's turn, and they ask her if she knows anyone who has passed this test before, and she admits that her boyfriend succeeded and is now with the wealthy. She says she hopes to succeed to be with him, but the person questioning her forces her to stop thinking about that entirely if she really wants to succeed and must prove she is not there for him. He asks her to remove the necklace she is wearing and surprises her by saying he saw her boyfriend's personal file and knows he is actually dead. We return again to Ezekiel, who receives a call from Cassia, saying they managed to capture a member of the rebels and are torturing him brutally to extract all the information he has. He confesses that one of the participants in the test is a member of their group, but refuses to say who exactly. At that time, the remaining participants move to the second stage. One rejected person stands on the balcony and decides to commit suicide because it was his last hope in life, and he lost it. The workers quickly take his body and clean the place as if nothing happened. Then each participant stands in front of the scanning device to confirm their registration. Joanna notices that Raphael's registration is fake, but the scan approves it, and he moves with them to the second level normally. Each of them is given a pile of small plastic pieces and a 3-minute time limit to collect as many cubes as possible. The rules of the game are explained well, and as soon as the time starts, they all rush to the cubes, trying to gather as many as they can. Michelle notices that Fernando can't play well because he is in a wheelchair, and she decides to help him by collecting for both of them. They start to worry after a while as the time is about to run out. Raphael gathers only 8 pieces and tries to reach 9, stealing one from the guy next to him. They both get into a fight, and it escalates. Michelle also has only 8 cubes, and Fernando decides to give her all his cubes so she can win since she tried to help him. She and Joanna win in the end and pass the danger zone. The other participants learn what Raphael did and see him as a bad and deceitful person. He starts losing his temper and approaches someone, getting into a fight with him, and the young man keeps hitting him, causing another problem because of him. Marco gets upset about him because they all beat him, stopping them with difficulty and letting him go. Raphael sits on his own, and she tells him she knows very well that he is trying to gain sympathy from those around him after what he did. She offers to cooperate with him to win and tells him that if he tries to betray her, she will tell everyone that his registration is fake. At that time, he meets with Denise, pressing her in a strange way because he suspects she is connected to the man who died in the area. He ignores Alan's attempts to stop him from torturing her. He says he does it to remind them and himself of their required role. After Denise leaves, she returns and thanks him for everything he did for her. Cassia arrives and tells Ezekiel she has evidence. Michelle and Bruna are taken away from the group, and Cassia takes them to another place. She covers their eyes with a strange black substance and leads them to a room, then removes the substance. She explains that someone died in the area, and upon investigation, she found out that the person used to live in the same building they both live in. This means one of them might be from the rebel group and came to avenge his death. She gives them a few minutes to confess the truth and threatens them a bit. Once she leaves them alone, they argue, each swearing to the other that they know nothing about it, and they eventually agree to attack Cassia and escape from her. Michelle suddenly remembers her training with the rebel group, and we understand she never had a boyfriend, and the necklace she wore was meaningless, just a trap. She came here specifically to avenge Ezekiel and kill him because he killed her brother. When Cassia returns, Bruna attacks her, but unfortunately, she gets shot and dies. Michelle tries to take the weapon from her, but Ezekiel enters at that moment and takes it first, thinking Bruna is the agent and Michelle is innocent, asking her to keep it to herself and don't tell anyone anything. They take him and return him with the rest of the participants. She sits alone and continues crying because she feels responsible for the girl's death. The next day, they conduct a comprehensive medical examination for all participants. When it's Fernando's turn, the wheelchair makes a move and the alarm device goes off. They take him away and throw him in the lab. The doctor examines him and tells him there's nothing wrong. He shows her the swellings that constantly cause him pain and says he can't find any solution. He's shocked after the doctor injects him, feeling his leg as normal as before. The doctor tells him it will take a few minutes and he'll be fine. Fernando returns and goes with the rest of the participants to the next test. They enter a room full of statues of different shapes. They are asked to analyze the scene in front of them and identify which of the statues killed the girl who died. They all wander around trying to find clues to help them. Many answer incorrectly and feel the task is very difficult. Michelle finds a mark on the girl's body and sees that it's from the poor. Fernando suggests she might have invited her friends to dinner to poison the woman whose husband is cheating with her. Fernando feels his story is correct and tries to press the button to confirm. Raphael stops him at that moment, telling him the answer is wrong because the story must have a specific purpose, not just any story. He sees that the girl might be allergic to silver because everyone is wearing silver except for her. They all gather evidence to confirm his story is correct. They prepare to press the button and are very happy in the end because the answer is correct. They all move on to the next stage, except for one, because he didn't find any evidence. Afterward, Aline notices Ezekiel leaving the building. He goes to an isolated area and gathers some hidden items underground. Aline uses cameras to monitor all his movements. She's very surprised to find him wearing old clothes and wandering in a poor neighborhood pretending to be a beggar. When he notices cameras watching, he runs away, dropping all the food he has on the ground. In the building, participants are divided into groups of 7. They are sent to different rooms. They find a bag containing only 6 coins, and no one can exit the door unless they have this coin. They are given a deadline to choose one person from their group to leave. Raphael holds a coin and feels safe in both cases, and attacks Marco, forcing him to throw it on the ground. They leave all the coins in the bag to think well. They spend a very long time talking without reaching any solution, and finally decide to draw their names on a piece of paper and make strips, and whoever picks the shortest one will leave. Unfortunately, Joanna loses, and each of the remaining 6 takes their coin from the bag. Strangely, Lucas discovers later that his bag is empty and searches everywhere for a coin but can't find it, realizing Joanna hid it to make him lose. She takes his place and moves on with the other winning participants. They both enter a battle with each other, and Ezekiel returns to the building again, reviewing the footage showing him. He confirms that there is no match between his face and the scenes in the camera. He puts his face in the water again, as usual. Afterward, he sends all these scenes to Mateus, a council member who wants to remove Ezekiel from his position. He orders her to find out what Ezekiel is hiding and doing behind their backs as soon as possible. At the same time, Ezekiel learns from Aline that she is transferring all his news to Mateus. She asks him to be very careful, because she won't leave him alone. The group reaches the psychologist at that time. They see all the people who lost below. They appear very sad and regretful. Denise contacts the group and explains to them that they must pass through the tunnel, each with their group, within 5 minutes. The countdown begins, and visibility decreases significantly. It's hard for anyone to see around them. They hear strange sounds, and suddenly Fernando finds himself not able to walk and is shocked. We understand that there is a gas causing hallucinations. That's why none of them is fully conscious. Each of them tries to overcome themselves, to reach the finish line. Joanna feels she can't control the hallucinations, thinking she won and reached the line. She's surprised by the strange sounds she hears, blaming her as a cheater and returning to her senses. Suddenly, she helps all her colleagues pass through the tunnel. They all reach the end, to the extent that she drags her leg with difficulty until she reaches with them. The door opens at the last moment, saving them from losing afterward. They are transferred to the place where they will sleep. Joanna feels she is still affected by the gas and can't calm down due to the intense hallucinations. The doctor reassures her that she will improve. Soon Joanna sits thinking about the day she secretly entered a house, stole a gun and a bag full of food. Suddenly, she hears a sound behind her, gets scared, and turns on her light to protect herself. Unfortunately, she kills a small child. In the present, Joanna sees someone moving outside and follows their shadow to the bathroom. When she enters, she sees the same dead child. She exits in the end and attacks her, trying to kill her because her condition has become very bad. And Raphael sees them. He just watches them. He feels guilty after a while and approaches Joanna, calms her down and stops her, and sees Ezekiel in the camera, the child trying to enter the place, and he goes himself to see what's happening and finds him walking alone in the facility. He learns from him that his name is Augusto, and he entered because he was hungry. Ezekiel deletes his screen footage and then takes him and puts a lot of food in front of him. We understand that the food Ezekiel was hiding is always given to the children. He gives him glasses to see better and some blocks to play with. As soon as Aline knocks on the door, Ezekiel hides him quickly. When she enters, she asks about the presence of a dish, even though he is alone. She tries to twist her words to trap him. Ezekiel maintains his composure as much as he can. When she leaves, the boy quickly exits secretly, and Ezekiel gives him a lot of food. He asks him not to come again during this period because it's dangerous. We return to Joanna, who remembers the day which went to a woman and asked her to give her a fake record and plant another name for her, so she could register in the system. Since then, her name has been Joanna. A few hours after implanting the new chip, Joanna wakes up, learns from the woman that there is a big financial reward for whoever reaches the killer. The woman is shocked to learn that she killed the child and kicks her out of her house. In the present, Raphael sees her sitting next to him, noticing the mark of the chip. He speaks to her nicely and asks her to cooperate with him, and they help each other to earn. The next morning, she and Fernando wake up and discover that the way they entered has become blocked. Fernando goes to inform the others and tells them that they are trapped. Each one goes to search for a way out. They roam everywhere, but no one sees any staff or food. Marco discovers that this is a test. He recalls when he lived with his family before coming here. He calls his colleagues and shows them the numbers appearing on the board in front of him. He tells them that they must memorize all these numbers because they will need them in the second room. They organize their thoughts to apply the codes together and open the door, working together as a team, with each person carrying out their task. They manage to activate the ventilation opening and some food comes out. However, they are upset because the gate still hasn't opened, and they argue about who should take the food. They decide to use alphabetical order, so Agatha eats first. Meanwhile, Alina goes to Isaac's room and tries to use his computer. She takes a copy of his fingerprint to unlock the device, but unfortunately, it gets rejected, and Isaac gets alerted that someone is in his room. Alina searches the entire room, hoping to find something against him. Cassie enters and forces her to leave. Isaac talks to the council and accuses Matthews of sending someone to spy on them, recounting everything that happened to him. The participants try to solve a new puzzle each time to get enough food for everyone. They use all their energy, working together to solve all the questions, and eventually, they all eat without any problems. At that point, Isaac decides to make some changes to the game and explains his plan to the staff. The contestants are surprised that when they continue solving, no more food descends. They spend some time without food, feeling tired and exhausted. They decide to sleep and continue the next day, ignoring Marco's pleas to keep going. He tries to convince them that the door might open soon if they just wait a little longer. Agatha stands alone, looking at the numbers strangely, and they all rush to take the available food, causing a big commotion. Michelle asks them to calm down so they can divide the food fairly. Marco feels that the test has changed and realizes that they need to find another way to get out to win. Some of them go to break a piece of their bed and try to force the door open. After much effort, they manage to create a small opening. They all hurry to pass through before the door closes on them. Raphael decides to take a risk and be the first to go through, but he finds another closed door and has to return, informing them of the situation. They think about what they will do to at least get some food. Marco tells them he has an idea and asks them to follow him. When they refuse to listen, he becomes very aggressive, to the point of trying to kill one of them, forcing him to give up his food and taking them by force to steal all the food available from the other groups. Chaos ensues throughout the place because of Marco. We flash back to the past and learn that Marco's family succeeded in the test, leaving him alone with poverty, sacrificing him to live happily. At the same time, Marco also came to the test, leaving his pregnant wife, thinking he could bring her along when he wins. Fernando sees what's happening outside and goes to prepare his group. Joanna finds Agatha unconscious and lying on the ground, takes her shoe and uses it to climb through the ventilation opening, hoping to find a way out. She's shocked to see Isaac standing above, waiting for her. Meanwhile, Michelle, Fernando, and the rest of the group create a barrier to protect themselves from Marco and his gang. Isaac explains to Joanna that they have passed the first half of the test, and the second half is still ahead. He says the purpose of the test is to teach them that the world is never fair, and at that moment, everyone will reveal their true selves. He continues watching them as they fight each other, stealing food from one another. Marco hits a girl on the head with a metal rod, shocking everyone around him with his brutality. When Raphael learns she is dead, he fights with Marco and is expelled. When everyone gangs up on Marco, Raphael is forced to flee and distance himself from them. He reaches Michelle's barrier, but she refuses to open the door for him. He approaches her and whispers something in her ear, convincing her to help him. Isaac tells Joanna that the participants started this war and they must end it. He asks her to rest and offers her a very nice meal. Before she eats, he tells her that if she eats, she will be out of the competition and advises her to return and continue the test to win. Marco breaks part of their barrier, and Joanna returns, hitting one of his group members and moving him out of her way. She gathers all the people Marco has attacked and agrees with them to get rid of him and his group. A big fight breaks out between them, resulting in many of Marco's men dying. Joanna screams and asks them all to be quiet, gathering all the participants and asking them to calm down. Suddenly, the door opens in front of them, and they all quickly exit the place, leaving Agatha unconscious, with no one thinking to help her. Naturally, Marco and all his men remain because they are injured and cannot move. Marco tries to crawl to reach the door, but unfortunately, it closes on him and kills him. At that moment, Raphael remembers a day he spent with his brother talking. We learn that Raphael had previously participated and lost, and this year was his brother's turn. Raphael devises a plan, drugs his brother, steals his chip, takes his identity, and enters. He goes to the rebels and tells them he found a way to enter the wealthy area. In the present, Isaac emerges to speak with them, saying that only 9% have made it this far. When he returns to the facility, he finds Alina sitting in his room, showing him pictures of Augusto she managed to obtain. She tells him she hasn't reported him yet and gives him 2 choices, saying that if he talks, he will be sentenced to death. She suggests she can keep his secret on the condition that he finishes this competition and submits his resignation. Isaac recalls the past, revealing he was married to a woman named Julia, living happily together. One day, Julia disqualified a contestant because she was pregnant, refusing to tell any of the members what happened, and the matter passed unnoticed. The time for the next competition comes, and Isaac asks Julia to be his special assistant that year. She tries to control the riots caused by the rebels, accidentally killing someone due to the chaos. Isaac, Julia, and Cassie watch everything happening through surveillance cameras, and she notices a child standing and looking at them strangely in the camera, and when she approaches him, she discovers that he has invaded her. She becomes tense and starts behaving strangely with those around her, grabbing a contestant and hitting her violently. A complaint is filed against her, and she is completely removed from her position. Ezekiel sees that this work is affecting her mental health and advises her to take a break, suggesting she live abroad for a while. She insists she is fine and wants to stay with him, but he refuses to listen to her. When she's alone, she keeps watching the child on the camera, carrying his picture with her. The following year, Ezekiel prepares for the new competition, and Julia continues her search, trying to find Augusto's address. She is deeply affected, unable to sleep, and constantly thinking about him, which surprises Ezekiel. He starts investigating her actions. One day, he discovers she watched the same clip 127 times. The next morning, he tells her he saw the video and pleads with her to tell him what she's thinking instead of forcing him to send her to a recovery center. He promises to help her if she confesses. Julia admits that Augusto is her son and feels guilty for abandoning him. She searches for him because she wants to see him again and make amends. Ezekiel argues with her, saying it's against the law and she can't do that. Julia continues to watch the video, ignoring him completely, and searches for her son's address by all means. She decides to leave the establishment altogether. Ezekiel sees her escaping and orders the guards to close the gate, but Julia manages to get out just in time and escapes. Ezekiel follows her, trying to stop her, and captures her with all his strength, eventually sending her to the recovery center. She remains silent the whole time, watching the picture of her son she has with her. The next day, Ezekiel learns she committed suicide, marking the first suicide in the wealthy area. Ezekiel starts submerging his head in water repeatedly, trying to forget what happened with them, searching through Julia's belongings, and sees Augusto's picture. Because of this, he dresses like a beggar and starts going out frequently to search for him himself. He manages to find him, providing him with plenty of food all the time, trying to care for him as much as he can, telling him he's coming on behalf of his mother and will continue to care for him, asking him to protect himself until he turns 20, and then he'll take him with him. In the present, she submits a report, assuring the council that nothing is wrong, and Michelle talks with Raphael, telling him she knows well that he's from the rebels and explains that she's with him and came here for revenge. They agree to protect each other and keep their secret, and afterward, each takes a separate room this time, finding pictures of themselves with their families. They see their families in a video and talk to them. Fernando's father admits that families are bribed to persuade their children to leave the competition. Fernando considers leaving after witnessing the violence and death in front of his eyes. His father advises him to stay and continue because it's best for his future. They argue over this, and in the end, his father tells him that if he returns, he won't find a home to live in and won't speak to him again. He's forced to stay and continue. Since Joanna is an orphan, a strange person comes to strangle her, and as soon as she regains consciousness, she realizes someone is coming to take her to hand her over and claim the reward. He considers pretending to be her father to convince her to withdraw and take the bribe for himself, threatening to kill her if she refuses the deal. Joanna suddenly attacks the man and tries to escape from him. The man catches up with her, grabs her, and attempts to strangle her. Joanna surrenders, telling him to kill her because she wants to end her life. The man confesses that Ezekiel sent him, doing all this to ensure she doesn't want to escape from the crime she committed and genuinely wants to start a new life. He announces that she passed this test with flying colors. Michelle, having no one, is approached by someone who tells her she has half an hour to decide whether to take the money and leave or continue. Michelle thinks about her younger brother Bruna, pours herself a drink, and accidentally breaks the box containing the money. When the employee returns, she informs him that she chose to continue and doesn't want the money. A big argument ensues between Raphael and his mother, who believes he should take the money to help his family, especially after what he did to her brother to come here. When he refuses, his mother slaps him and leaves, realizing that many participants chose the money and left. At that moment, Ezekiel goes to meet Augusto, gives him some of his belongings, and tells him he won't be able to see him again, bidding him farewell before leaving, advising him to take care of himself afterward because he won't be with him. When he returns to the establishment, he tells Cassia that Aline threatens him, refusing to give her details. When the test is over, the remaining participants are gathered and explain the upcoming stages. They conduct interviews with each one of them individually, starting with Joanna, who passes her test. Michelle enters next, and they give her a uniform to wear, asking her to convince a couple to register their son for the next competition. When Michelle enters, she finds Bruna's parents and is forced to tell them their daughter is dead. Michelle tries to console them and starts discussing their son, telling them it would be in his best interest. The father becomes very angry with her, arguing with her. Michelle admits that her brother also died in the last competition, crying and recounting how her brother died and what she went through exactly. She says that when she joined the competition herself, she understood the situation and saw it wasn't the system's fault. She believes that if she wins, she'll live a very good life and be able to start anew. In the end, they agree to register their son, and she passes the test. When Cassia asks her about her brother's story, she tells her she lied to convince them, nothing more. Fernando faces a big challenge, forced to motivate the contestants and put them through tests without them knowing. He starts explaining all the ideas that come to mind, impressing them with his thinking. He's very happy to have finally succeeded and passed this test as well. It's Raphael's turn, and his challenge is to convince one of the contestants to help him because he needs 2 people, not just 1. He goes around pleading with each of them to assist him. When he threatens Joanna that he'll report her, she tells him they already know, and nothing would make her help him. He then talks to Fernando, telling him he's from the rebels and needs his help to change the country together. He tells him he's not from the rebels, and if he reports her, she'll die along with him. Fernando reluctantly agrees to help him, and together they manage to win, with Raphael passing safely and returning. Walking to her courtroom, she tries to take something out of the trash and uses it to remove a capsule from her leg, remembering how she got this capsule from the rebels and that she has to swallow it if someone arrests her. Instead of swallowing it, she takes it with her and goes out with the others for dinner. She goes to Askel to thank him for what he did, and takes the opportunity to put poison in his drink. Before he drinks it, his colleague calls him and he goes to talk with him, offering his drink to one of them, who collapses as soon as he drinks it. They quickly take him to the hospital, but unfortunately, he dies. The doctor tells them he drank something poisonous, and Askel starts reviewing the cameras to understand how it happened. Raphael talks to Michelle, telling her he saw what she did, and Fernando tells her he will stay by her side and try to protect her because he truly loves her and wants nothing more than to be with her. They gather all the participants and ask them to stay in the hall until they inform them of the next step. Michelle asks Raphael to get rid of the empty capsule he has. Askel arrives at that moment with his guards and decides to interrogate them one by one. They think it's part of the test and handle the situation very normally. When it's Fernando's turn, he swears he knows nothing at all. Askel notices he's tense and suspects he's trying to protect someone. He then talks to Michelle and notices the wound on her leg. She tells him someone tried to rob her and injured her. Askel shows her the body of the man who died, hoping she might be affected, but she remains completely silent and doesn't confess. On her way back, she feels tired and starts losing consciousness. Fernando tries to help her, and she tells him she's thinking of turning herself in, fearing Askel might have put a serum in the drink to force her to tell the truth. They think together about a solution to her situation. Askel announces to the council that Kaylin is the one who did it and asks the guards to imprison her. He shows them some edited footage to prove she's the traitor among them and gives Kaylin a chance to speak. She tries to explain everything Askel is doing behind their backs. At that moment, Nair enters her file and replaces everything that could incriminate Askel. Of course, no one believes her at all. The rebel they captured asks Kasia to stick to her agreement with him, and instead of killing him, she leaves him and walks away. They send the participants to their force, and Askel finds the capsule. The next morning, they all wake up to messages from the administration, informing them they've all passed all the tests and become wealthy. Fernando rushes to Michelle's room and doesn't find her. Askel tells him they eliminated her, and Fernando decides to resign because of what they did to her. As he prepares to leave the building, an employee tells him it was his last test, and unfortunately, he failed. Fernando is shocked and asks to see Michelle, but unfortunately, they close the gate on him, preventing him from entering. At that time, they try to kill Michelle by drowning her in water to make her talk, but she refuses. Askel asks the guards to leave and admits they suspected her from the beginning. He keeps pressuring her until she tells him they killed her brother and she's here to avenge him. Askel shows her videos of her brother proving he's alive and very happy in his life, telling her the rebels are lying to people to recruit them to their side. He agrees with her that if she shares the information she has, he'll let her go. When she refuses to speak, he leaves her to watch her brother's photos. Nair talks to Askel, blaming him for the Augustine issue and refusing to help him with anything else. The winners arrive at the garden to enter the purification process, and Kasia takes Joanna to her office. Askel announces to everyone that they must take a serum for diseases and tells them they will ban reproduction in their area because children come into the world to suffer. He tells them the rules and laws of the new world and gives them a chance to think if they really want this path or want to return to their old lives. After much thought, Raphael agrees to take the serum. Askel goes to talk to Michelle, telling her she must belong to the rebels, not them, because they lied to her. In the end, Michelle surrenders and tells him everything she knows about them and all their plans. Afterwards, the guards arrive at her old neighborhood and take all the people she named. Askel gives her the serum as well and agrees to keep her with them, telling her she will spend some time in the recovery center until she gets better and starts a new life. He tries to find out from her if there are any other spies among the participants like her, but she assures him there are none besides her. He goes to talk to Joanna, telling her she's very smart and can't just be someone living here, offering her a job with them at the facility in a significant position. He shows her a picture of the man who tried to kill her before she came here, giving her a chance to press the button and kill him. She hesitates about what to do and refuses to kill him, telling him she's not a murderer. When pressured, she tells him she won't lose her humanity just to please him. He throws her out of the building too, and she meets Fernando at the door. They agree to live together from today and reach his old neighborhood together. At the facility, Azkal constantly thinks about all the people dying because of them, breaks down psychologically, and considers suicide. And that's where today's movie ends. If you liked today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell to receive all new updates. See you in the next video. Goodbye.